The Alexander brothers federal sex trafficking trial, the jury is still deliberating, and I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm Lauren Conlon from Los Angeles Magazine. I am here with one of my favorite attorneys ever, Arthur Aidala of Aidala Bertuna Kamens. He has a slew of high-profile defendants. Arthur, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I do feel for my colleagues, Mark and Deanna and Howard. You know, when you've worked so hard and the jury is out and deliberating, and you have this like helpless feeling. There's really nothing you could do. So there's a part of you where you're like not stressing out about work you have to do, but there's another part of you that like you want the opportunity to do more to try to prove your case. So they're in the middle of it right now. I don't know if you have like a verdict watch count on, but I mean, they haven't been out that long.
No. So they started deliberating yesterday afternoon. That was Thursday, March 5th. And so they are continuing to deliberate all through Friday. The judge is going to keep them until about 5:30 p.m. She sort of indicated, unless there's some kind of scheduling issue. But look, Arthur, right now we are recording this at 2:10 p.m. Eastern. There hasn't been a note. There hasn't been any questions. They haven't asked to see any type of evidence. I mean, what does that signal to you?
That they're working through it. I mean, it's been a long trial. There's been a lot of witnesses. There's been a lot of lawyering. They've heard a lot of words, right? I mean, again, I think it was four. I think they heard like what 12 hours of summations between everyone, maybe a little more. That's a lot to digest. There's 10 counts. There's a lot to go through, and there's a lot to try to understand. Like, what do those counts mean? And the elements are there, but what do they? What does the prosecutor really have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt? So, I know I've been in contact with some of the defense attorneys, and they're a little surprised as what you just said. Oh, there's no notes. I'm not that surprised. I mean, if you really look at how many hours they've been deliberating, I don't even know if it's maybe 6 or 7. So they're doing their homework. I would not expect a quick verdict here because there's so many witnesses, so many defendants, and so many counts.
Okay, so your prediction, I mean, I know it's very difficult, but you wouldn't say there's going to be a verdict today, Friday, March 6th. If you had to guess, your best guess.
Okay, so correct. I would not say that there's going to be a verdict today. And if I'm the defense team, I don't want a verdict that quickly. I think that normally you would think there is a verdict on a Friday because a jury doesn't want to leave, doesn't want to have to come back on Monday. But not when they only got the case yesterday afternoon and all this time has gone by. I think that there's going to be people in there that say, hey, we owe it to all sides to go over the evidence, to think about this, for all of us to talk together. I mean, unless it's like one of those rare cases, it's actually not that rare in the Southern District of New York, where they walk in and they're all like one way or the other. Usually in the Southern District of New York, the one way is guilty. So I will tell you this, Lauren. In the Southern District of New York, sometimes you count a victory, like if you keep the jury out a long amount of time before they convict. Because, most of the time, the prosecutors have an overwhelming amount of evidence. I mean, what I mean is like it's a white collar case and there's a lot of paperwork. There's bank records, there's phone records, there's text messaging, there's email. This is a little different. Not a little different. It's very different. So there's a lot of interpretation here. There's a lot of people, you and I can hear the same witness and you feel like, I totally believe her. I can't believe they did this. And I may say, come on, she's full of it. So I'm sure the 12 strangers who are now deliberating and allowed to talk about the case for the first time have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. And, I guess what's confusing to me, and I've sat through obviously trials, sex trafficking trials. I think that the trafficking elements are very, very confusing. I find it to be just, I feel for the jury to have to sit there and go through every single witness, every outcry witness. I mean, every part of their testimony and say, okay, well, does this constitute sex trafficking? They could believe these women, right? They could 100% believe everything they said because some of that testimony was raw. I mean, it was all very emotional, traumatic. But then again, on the other hand, will they find that that constitutes trafficking? I don't know, because I have heard both sides. Both sides are very convincing when they are speaking about, meeting the elements
Yeah.
of trafficking.
Well,
And
look, the advantage that in federal court, the closing arguments, the prosecutor goes, then the defense goes, and then the prosecutor gets to go again. So that's the last that the jurors hear. So yes, you're correct. Both sides make a convincing argument. Of course, the jurors hear the prosecutor's convincing argument last because they have the burden of proof. So that's a clear disadvantage for the defense. Also, I asked you before we went on the air about the judge's charge. What the judge is charging the jury with in whatever 45 minutes to an hour, we go to law school for and spend a semester sometimes studying these things. So that's another thing the jurors have to wrap their brain around. And a lot of times the notes that come back initially have to do with the law, not with the witness. Please explain this again, or we don't understand what this charge means. And then after they hear and they get a clarification on the law, then they say, okay, we want to hear from Jane Doe again or John Doe again, etc.
That's a really good, oh my gosh, you brought up such a good point. These jurors are having to decide this and understand this when you spend full semesters on this in law school. And that's how I feel, where I'm trying to explain it and I'm trying to talk about it. And I'm like, I get what they're saying, but we'll see. I have to say, I don't see how you can listen to 11 women say basically the same thing and not be convinced, right? I understand. You have the volume of witnesses saying the same, you know what I mean? Alleging they were drugged.
The point that you make though is, if you believe them, you find them credible, do they satisfy all of the elements of sex trafficking? It's like, you want to talk about the P. Diddy case. He beat the heck out of Cassie, on the video, right? There's no doubt about that he did that. But in federal court, he didn't get charged with that because there is no assault charge in federal court. So even though people saw how abusive he was, there was no way to convict him of that, or it didn't satisfy the elements of the things that he was charged with. So it's kind of the same thing here. They may say that certain sex acts occurred, and in state court, it would be a sex abuse or a rape or sodomy. But in federal court, that's not what they're charged with. So they could get cleared in federal court.
Yeah. And so I guess just to wrap this up, because, I just want it to be a quick hit here. Let's say a majority of the charges, let's say they're found not guilty. Do you think that this is going to be a bigger discussion here about the federal sex trafficking laws? Do you think that there's a chance they could amend these laws? Because clearly it's not working in their favor.
Well, I would like to think so, but I would doubt it. Yes, I hear where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you. But if they get convicted on one count, Judge Caproni is not known as a lenient sentencer. I don't think I'm breaking any news by saying that. So the fact that they got someone on one count, whether it's the Alexander brothers or somebody else, who then winds up going to serve a significant prison sentence, they will feel that they got their victory and there's no need to change anything.
So this is interesting. So basically what you're saying is, let's say they are convicted on 1 to 2 counts of conspiracy, which is, there's just standalone sex trafficking charges, and then there's conspiracy and sex trafficking charges. Let's say each brother is convicted on one of those. They could potentially serve 30 years. That could be a 30-year sentence.
If it's just a straight conspiracy count, the maximum is 5 years, and they've already been in for way over a year. Let's be clear. If they only got convicted of conspiracy, it's right out of the P. Diddy handbook of it's a victory. But yes, if they get convicted of one count of the sex trafficking, again, Judge Caproni is not exactly the judge that you're excited about when you're a defense attorney and you find out that's the judge who's sentencing my client.
Sorry, that kills me. Okay, and last thing, I actually the conspiracy thing I have trouble with. And that's one thing that I haven't been fully convinced in the case, only because I see a lot of these threads, these messages, and I see a lot of just like asshole like dudes, just, you know what I mean? Like that's one thing that I'm like, I'm not saying this didn't happen. I just don't know about the conspiracy. I'm not
Well,
sure.
the threshold, I mean, again, I don't off the top of my head know what the judge read regarding the charges, the elements of the crime, but it's not that much, Lauren. It's really not that much. It's like you and I talking and be like, hey, why don't we get these girls from, who are right now in Oklahoma, and just let's get them over here, and you bring the GHB, and we'll have a good party out at the Hamptons. And it doesn't take that much more. There's the agreement to do it, and then there's the overt act that you did do it, that you tried to make it done, and it doesn't even have to be completed. It could just be like you took steps to complete the conspiracy. So it's not a high bar.
Okay, so then you know what? You saying that, then I can kind of see where someone could find them guilty of conspiracy, because that right there is what we're talking about. And the defense even pointed out certain words, like when they're in a group thread and they want to have an orgy or something. They say the words, the defense says, oh, well, they said that they want to try to have an orgy, and try is different than like, we're going to do this. And then the government's like, who gives a shit? Like if they say try, who cares? Like this is a conspiracy. Right?
Well, there's got to be an act then. Like, let's try to have one, and then they have to do something in furtherance of it. So it could be as simple as like renting a hotel room for the purpose of having the orgy, or buying someone a plane ticket for the purpose of having the orgy. So even if it never happens, but you took a step towards making it happen, we got a little bit of a problem in the jury.
And that would be their rented Hamptons house. But then you could also say these dudes just wanted to rent a Hamptons house for the summer.
Yeah. Yes, the Hamptons house in and of itself, that may not satisfy because it's not specific enough. But as I said, if you rented a hotel room just for, the specific purpose, of having an orgy for a couple of hours, then you got a problem. But look, I'm sure both sides did a great job. Obviously, I know many of the defense attorneys, so I'm rooting for them pretty hard because I know how hard they've been working for a long time. The Metropolitan Detention Center here, when you go to visit a client, you kind of like, it's like a coffee clutch. You get to see everyone, and they've been working very, very hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been an intense, 7 weeks, I want to say 8 weeks here, just starting from jury selection. So I'm thinking next week, maybe. I don't know. I hate to guess on this stuff, but I just noticed, Arthur, I'm going to, plug you, put all your stuff in the episode notes, but your name is not Arthur Alpha. It's Arthur Aidala. I don't know if you've had a long week or what, but I mean.
No, that's actually my private, Facebook. I have I got to log on to this app.
Let us know. Why would you?
No, I don't care. When I say it's private, it's just, it's just for a smaller group of people, like 150, not 5,000. So, but if your viewers are always welcome.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you for your time and your insight. This was actually really helpful for me. I'm going to head down to the courthouse, see what's going on. And I guess we'll all be waiting.
Keep us posted.
All right. Thanks, Arthur.
Bye.